pressing through the Ten Commandments over this teaching that we're doing. And we've made it through the first three, and we've kind of talked about no other gods, and we've talked about no idols, and we've talked about no misuse of God's name. Tonight, we're going to deal with probably the most important one. And I know that sounds strange, but of all the commandments that are given, this is the lengthiest that Jesus or God speaks about a different commandment. Thou shalt not kill. It's real pretty simple. But when he gets into this fourth one, when he starts talking about rest, there is so much that's built into this that it's important to drag it out. And God uses several different details to describe rest, because ultimately everything that we do in life is built for rest. I know it seems in our society now, in our Western culture, it seems odd because we think to ourselves, well, we work. But let me ask you the question, what do you work for? What do you work for? I know from the time you're little, people ask you, what are you going to be? What are you going to do? What do you work for? Let me go ahead and give you the simple answer. Every one of you in this room works to find rest. That's the goal. And usually, sometimes because we realize somewhere in the process of jobs and all that and kids and life, I'll never find rest. And we just give up on the notion or the idea of why we work. We just know we get up every day and it's like, oh, time to go again. Time to get after it again. Back to the grind. And we wonder why we're usually miserable about our life. We're miserable about all that goes on around in our world. But it's mainly because the thing that we need the most and the thing that we're longing for the most is the thing that we don't believe we'll ever have. Now, if I told you you're never going to get this, but keep trying, how discouraged would you become? Well, this is the context of what God is speaking in the commandments. And it basically is this: remember the Sabbath by keeping it holy. Remember the Sabbath by keeping it holy. Now, tonight, before we start, let me throw a few questions at us, just kind of break us in on this. If I told you there's about 7 different types of rest that you need, and before we break into anything else, there's about 7 different types that you need. Let's say in this room tonight, you need physical rest. What would you do? Go to sleep. If you needed physical rest, you would go to sleep, right? Is that, how many believe that's the right answer? How many believe it's not the right answer? Rest can be partially sleep, yes. But literally, to get physical rest, you've got to continue moving, but move at a very light load. Let me see if I can explain it this way. I did P90X. I have done it several times. Love P90X. There is a 7th day, and it's your off day. The only problem is you're not off. There's a stretch tape. A whole hour plus of doing nothing but stretching, and you would think, I'm off today. I'm not doing anything. But they'll tell you, if you don't do this, it's going to be harder come Monday because your body has not recovered. Part of recovering is that I need to stretch. I need to move. When we talk about physical rest, it could be a stretch day. For physical rest, some of you need to take a walk. How many of us, we got a day off and we're sitting around the house about to go crazy, and we look at each other like, let's just go for a walk. Now, you're physically tired, but I need to go for a walk. Why? Because you need light fatigue
You need to rest your body, but the body does not always need to be stagnant. Now, most people that don't understand this, they do just the opposite. Like I said, when they have a day off, what do? Nothing. Don't clean, don't do nothing. They get up the next day, and how do they feel? House is wrecked, dishes are a mess. And if they had just done light stuff that day, it would have brought rest. How about mental rest? If you're in this room, how would you deal with mental rest? If you mentally are just drained, if just, man, I can't even go to sleep. Every time my head hits the pillow, I get to think, I'm mentally rest. What would you do? Send the kids somewhere. Yes, absolutely. First thing, kids got to go. Do what? Thursday night football. That's mental rest. I'm gonna get all amped up watching my team get beat. That's gonna give me I'm gonna feel so much better when I go to bed that night. No. All right? If you're mentally, man, y'all got to get some of this stuff now. Y'all going to need some help in here. If you're mentally stressed, what you have to begin to do is what we call thought diffusion. All right? Let me explain this. Thought diffusion is where you can train yourself to let a thought come in and go. Anybody ever watched the movie Forrest Gump? Everybody loved the movie Forrest Gump. Raise your hand if you watched the movie. Everybody. So we know what that movie's about, right? Tell me what the movie Forrest Gump's about. Life's like a box of chocolates. You never know what you're going to get. The whole movie. Now, you said you watched it. You love it. What's it about? I'm just serious. When we're watching the movie, all these thoughts are like, oh, it's about a guy with bad legs, and he learns to run, and it's about a woman who's got abuse issues, and she grows up in that, and there's all these issues, and he's got mental issues, and he's, and it's like, really? And what's it about? Let me give you the answer. Next time you watch the movie, it'll make sense. It's about thought diffusion. The whole movie's about thought diffusion. What is the one thing the movie starts with? What does the movie start with? That's just blowed on the... At the end of the movie, what is the end? Y'all watch Forrest Gump? It is a movie the reason it makes you feel good is because it's trying to train you to live in thought diffusion. How to realize that what I'm going through now will pass. Not to hold too tightly to the very moment that I'm in. He goes through some good moments. He goes through some really tragic moments. He goes from Vietnam. He goes through all different things. But what he's showing you all through the movie and the other characters, the Lieutenant Dan, he's in the movie, and what's he got to deal with? He goes and his legs get blowed off, and he's angry and he's upset. And what does he finally have to learn to move on in life? By the end of the movie, what? He's got titanium legs, and he's married a woman of the same nationality that was of the country that blew his legs off. The ability, see, the problem with some of us in this room, we can never be mentally rested because we constantly hold to every thought that comes in our brain. Some of us have been holding on to it since we were a kid. I tell you what, every time I see that person, it's still just... You still have not been able to... And see, Forrest Gump teaches you how to... Life's like a box of chocolates. You never know what you're going to get next. But you don't quit eating the chocolates. You might get one you like this time. You might get one you don't like this time. Does that make sense? Okay, let me keep going. This ain't even my sermon. I'm just trying to have a conversation. Okay, so there's sensory rest. Sensory rest is where we just take on so much media, looking at our phone, watching TV, everything. How do we deal with sensory rest? What would you do? Turn it off. Y'all got that one. I figured y'all get that one because even your phone got run over. So you get plenty of rest. Yes, he is. So unwind is the key. To allow 45 minutes before you're fixing to go to bed. Or we tell our kids, all right, here's some other things you can do. It's called the 5 senses grounding, which basically some people like candles. Anybody like candles? Can sleep better when they got candles going. My wife is a candle person, loves candles. How about sounds? Anybody there's people that even have fans on their phone. There's people who have all this type of stuff. Yeah. So what you're doing is you can't just sit there and watch the movie and at the end of it let's go to bed. You've got to detach sensory. And so some people drink a glass of milk before they go to bed. I'm ice cream. Ice cream makes everything better. Ice cream. So understand if you have sensory and need sensory rest, then you have to unwind. Somehow you need to unwind it, and it's usually attached to one of your 5 senses, either smell, taste, touch, something that sometimes it's a blanket that just, that blanket that just feels so, okay. Number 4, emotional rest. Sometimes we have to have emotional rest. We're upset about something's happening, and somebody that instinctively walks up to it, are you all right? What do we say? I'm fine. What you've done is you've locked yourself up where you can't rest. We do this all the time. We walk around, I'm fine, I'm okay, it's all right. When we really don't feel that way, what we need to learn to say is, I'm actually really frustrated about. It don't mean you got to throw somebody under the bus or call them a bad thing or post something on it. Just means you got to find an exit valve, or otherwise it will rob you of rest. It will rob you of emotional. You'll get ulcers, and you'll be like, I don't even know why I'm up. You don't even know why you're mad anymore, but you're just so knotted up. Anybody understand what I'm saying tonight? Does this make sense? Number 5 is social rest. How do you deal with social rest? Go to the woods. That's the perfect answer. Social rest is when you are going to be with people and you're not going to have the same limit for social people as the other person. So that's what makes marriage sometimes difficult, is we're social creatures, but some are less social than others. So my wife is an extrovert. I'm an introvert. So if we go to a party, who do you think wants to leave soon? Me. I make 2 laps. We've seen everybody. Well, just sit down and get something to eat. I don't want to sit down and get nothing to eat. I want to go home. Okay. You got to know when enough is enough. Do you know, and are you able to know when that's enough? And it's okay that that's enough. Now, you can't stay away from all the time. You can't just say, it's not my. No, you got to be social. But not everybody works at the same level. Somebody can stay there for an hour or 2, like me, and some people stay there till they close the thing down, and they're the last people to walk out. That's not me. That's not me. So there's creative rest. So when you struggle with creative rest, you're just what we call burnout, we call whatever. What would you do for a situation where you just creative? You don't want to solve one more problem. You don't want to deal with one more thing. What would you do? Do what? Chocolate. Chocolate is good. Oh, chop wood. Okay, yeah. Yeah, chocolate. I'm always going back to chocolate ice cream, so I'm sorry. It's the answer for everything. I don't know why it's not on this. The one way that you can do this is get away. Whatever getting away looks like to you. When you're creatively, look, I can't solve one more problem. Now, I love my wife, but let me tell you one flaw in my wife. She only got one. But this is the one. She wants to discuss something at bedtime. Now, I know none of you other people in here have that problem, but let me tell you something. For somebody like me, that is not good. Because I've got to solve it, I've got to think about it, I've got to figure out. And so when you come to me and say, hey, I just want to bring something to your attention. I just want to mention something to you before you. Don't do that. Because for me, my creative, by the end of the day, I'm creatively gone. I have dealt with everybody who I need to deal with. I've done phone calls. I am at a point where, please, don't ask me to solve a problem in my head right now. And to her, it's not a big thing because she's saying, I don't need you to solve it. But you don't understand, the moment you brought the new problem, I got to solve it. I can't rest. Somebody's life is in danger. I don't know. Get them some ice cream. I've got to solve this. Number 7 is spiritual rest. Spiritual rest. So finally, when your body, your mind, everything, but spiritually, you know that you're drained. What do you do? What do you do when you're spiritually drained? Okay, so we're using another one, but spiritually, what will we do? Because if we go look at water, what does that solve? Which one did that solve? Or creative rest. It's like I don't know how to solve it, I'm just going to take a break. But when we're spiritually drained, this is going to sound, remember what I told you? Yes, like I told you, it sounds crazy. When you're physically tired, what should you do? Do something light. Don't just crash and it'll go away. Because you're going to lay there all day on Monday thinking, I got 14 hours and 72 seconds before I have to go back to work. It's better to do light stuff. Well, in the spiritual sense, it works the same way. We think I'm spiritually drained. I just need to get away. We have these stories of Elijah who hides in a cave for 40 days, whatever. Does that solve his problem? No. And when it's spiritual, it will not solve, because you can sit there and sit there and sit there, but it won't solve it. In spiritual rest, there has to be prayer and meditation, and we have to come up with the purposes of our lives. We have to come back to understanding what is the purpose of my life. God, when he saw Elijah, he didn't just say, okay, take a few more weeks off. No, he looked at him and said, I'm going to go ahead and tell you this. Hey, I need you to go do this. I need you to anoint this. Oh, and by the way, your replacement. I need you to go anoint your replacement. And you would think that would be the last thing that you'd want to do to somebody who's spiritually drained. But when you're spiritually drained, what you need more than anything else is your purpose. Time with God and a place that he can speak. Why is this important, Brother Lott? Because go with me in your Bibles to Exodus 20, verses 8 through 11. I know that's just fun to talk about all the different kind of stresses and the different kind of, but it's also very serious because God calls us and realizes when he made us, rest was very important to who we are. In fact, our whole build is to find rest. What do I need to do to find rest? What strategy do I need to have? Here's what the Bible says. Remember the Sabbath day to keep it holy. 6 days you shall labor and do all your work. But the seventh day is the Sabbath of the Lord your God. In it shall not do any work, you, nor your son, nor your daughter, nor your male servant, nor your female servant, nor your cattle, nor your stranger who is within your gates. For in 6 days the Lord made the heavens and the earth, the sea, and all that is in them, and rested the seventh day. Therefore the Lord blessed the Sabbath day and hallowed it. Let me see if I can say it this way. How many here would like to be blessed? Then you're going to have to learn to rest. Because he said he blessed the Sabbath day. That's the day he blessed. He didn't bless Monday. And he didn't bless Wednesday. He blessed the Sabbath day and said, that's a day that will give you what you need to keep going. It will be a blessing unto you. And God even uses himself as an example. He creates all there is in 6 days, and the seventh day he says, I'm resting. Not because God was tired, but because he wanted to show the example that this is the system by which I've created this world. In fact, plants work this way. Everything works in this order. So, that's the reason he uses 94 words, the longest section to describe a commandment or a rule for blessings. To forget is natural. We forget things all the time. Forgetting this and forgetting that. Remembering takes work. Forgetting is natural. And we just shake it off all the time. We're just like, oh, I forgot about that. Oh, I forgot where I did. I forgot about. And we don't think anything of it. But it takes work and effort to constantly remember something. And so God doesn't just say, hey, this is the Sabbath. He says, you are to remember it. Constantly reminding yourself of how important it is and how significant it is in your life. Don't forget this. Because if you forget this, you will forget the blessings that will carry you to the next place. You won't even have the energy to make it to the next place. So God gives us this, just like all the other 9, to prevent suffering in our life. So when he says, do not kill, why is he doing that? So it won't bring what in your life? Suffering. Don't steal. Why? Take off 1 day a week. Why? For the same reason, he doesn't want you suffering. And if you don't do this, you will create a life, no matter how much money you have, no matter how much house you have, no matter how much yard you have, no matter how much, you will suffer. You will suffer because you were not designed to function in this way. Now, I'm going to show you 6 things tonight, real quick. 6 things that the reason why he wants you to understand this, and it prevents suffering in your life. Number 1, he wants you to see it as a reward for your labor. The Sabbath is a reward for all the work that you did. How many times have you said, nobody cares about anything I do? Nobody even cares what I do. Nobody cares if I was gone. You may tell you your problem, you don't take Sabbaths. The Sabbath is designed to remind you that that's my reward. I'm going fishing today. Well, we got stuff to do. It'll wait till tomorrow. I'm going fishing today. Why? Because it's my reward day. I've worked hard for 6 days, and it is the moment where I get to enjoy the fruits of my labor. The person who constantly says, I'm too busy, brother. I'm too busy to take off. I'm too busy not to take off. People ask me all the time, I don't see how you do all you do. I don't see how you keep up with all you can. It's very simple. My phone is in my car on Mondays. That's how I do it. If you die on Monday, what day will I check on you? Tuesday. Everybody knows that. I tell you that in membership class. I am not giving my Sabbath because if I do, then I give away my health and everything that I'm going to have to give to you. That sounds crazy. Jesus would have multitudes praying for people sick, and Jesus would look at the disciples and say, let's go. But Lord, the multitude, they'll be here. What was he doing? He was trying to let them know your body is designed for so much. And when you take it past that limit, you're taking away the prize that you were designed, and you take on another role. Let me tell you what our problem is in our Western society. You may tell you why there's this big disconnect between government and you. Let me tell you why there's this big disconnect between government, I don't care which side you're between government and you. What does government see you as? Money. You make your money, you spend your money, and we get most of it. And you need to keep doing that till you die. And when you die, we're going to tax that too. Because that's what you are to us. Now, I'm not trying to insult you or anything, but when they're sitting up there talking down to you like you don't need protection, but they got security guards around them. Listen to me. It's because they don't see you the same way. And here's what one great man said about that. He said, when a man labors not for a livelihood, but to accumulate wealth, he then becomes a slave. For it is by the Sabbath we know we are not working animals, born to eat and to work. We are men. It is the Sabbath which is man's goal, not labor, but the rest he earns from his labor. Think about our world today. Do you know I grew up in a world where everything was closed on Sunday? Nobody worked on Sundays. You barely had things open on Wednesday. Definitely not after 4 or 5 o'clock. It was all closed. Why? Because they understood rest. We now do not understand that. We work to accumulate. We work to have. We put more stuff on credit cards, and we got to keep working because we got to pay more than we actually have. We live our lives knowing that when we die, most of the stuff will get paid off because we have an insurance policy. Until then, we'll all just live in debt. Just working. Does that make you happy? No. Doesn't make anybody happy. That's why we see the America that we have. And what are the promises that they give you? Rest? No. Hey, I'm going to lower your tax, make it a little easier on you. Hey, I'm not going to tax tips, make it a little easier on you. Is any part of that where they said, we're going to help you get rest? The moment you go into that mindset, you become no more than an animal. You just live to work for labor until you die. In fact, there's many people that wake up every day that says, I'll just be glad when it's all over. I'll be glad when I'm finally dead. I'm tired of this. What a way to live life. That instead of it being a prize, it's a burden. And listen to me, if you do not take your Sabbaths, you cannot receive the reward or the celebration of what God has given you. God says 6 days you work. God instructs us 6 days to work. Now listen to me. It's not a 4-3 project. It's not a 5-2. It's 6 days. 6 days you work. If you ain't working but 3 days, get another part-time job, work the other 3. You were built to work and labor. But it has to be mixed with rest. If you want to be successful, learn to work 6 days a week. And learn to hold on and protect the one day that is God's gift to you. And rest. And you will be fine. Go with me in your Bibles to Exodus 34 and 21. Let me say this. You're going to have to get this mindset. You deserve rest. Look at the person beside you and say, you deserve to rest. That sounds almost hard to even say. Like, oh, no, I got a lot of stuff. No. You deserve. It's the gift of God for you to rest. To take rest. Here's what Exodus says. 6 days you shall work, but on the 7th day you shall rest. In plowing time and in harvest you shall That's why I told you on Mondays, what do? He said, it don't matter if we're picking the crop. They're going to have to wait till the next day. Why? Because we're not losing our day of rest, whether it's plowing time, harvest time, no matter what time it is, you have to purposefully decide, I deserve to rest. Number 2, not only is it your reward, but it is the need of your body to recharge. You have to have physical rest. There was many years ago when they would do wagon trains and different things trying to get to California, there were several groups that would just push real hard, push real hard, push real hard. And they would nonstop trying to beat the other groups. And they found out that the groups that did 6 days and 1 day of rest always arrived earlier. The group that did 7 days straight until they kept pushing and pushing, they would have breakdowns, they would have problems, they would have mishaps. But the group that always traveled 6 and 1 were always the fastest to arrive. This is not anything new. We even have there's a law. It's called the law of diminishing returns. Science has studied it. It's not something that's just made up. Science has studied it. That's why the chicken plants, when they'll run them 7 days and 20, they know they can't do that very long. Why? Because they'll have diminishing returns before long. They will have more injuries. They will have more problems. They'll try to push it for a while, but they'll eventually cut it back. Why? Because they are smart enough to know you can't work every day without having problems. Your body was not designed for it. Take a break to be great. If you want to be great, take breaks. And don't be ashamed. I know I'm probably the wrong person to be preaching all this because it took me years to fight through and struggle and fight and get this in my head. But to be great, you're going to have to learn to take breaks. It's okay. You deserve it. And your body needs it. If you don't believe me, just ask Chick-fil-A. Last I heard, they're doing okay. And you know what? No matter how bad you want a piece of chicken, they ain't open on Sunday for you. Y'all think I'm a bad person. They ain't even going to feed you. But what are they doing? We realize if we don't do this, we'll have diminished returns. Of all the places that people want to work, of all the people happiest employees, Chick-fil-A. Why? Because they give their employees that 1 day and say, rest. Go do something you like. Go to church. Number 3. When you decide to take a Sabbath, when you decide to keep it holy, you also recreate your soul. You actually recreate your soul. Now, I'm talking about your spirit. Your spirit is from God. But your soul is built on what? Your feelings, your emotions, your all the things that the seed of life. And the soul must sometimes catch up with the body. You ever get just busy and going and doing, and you're like I don't even know why we do all this. I don't even know why we're even. I just quit now. I'd just rather just quit than do. You know what's happened? Your body's done got way ahead of your soul. And you have to stop long enough for your soul to catch back up. Your soul tells you why you're doing it. Your soul tells you the purpose. Your soul gives you your feeling back. And if you're going and doing something constantly, and you don't feel anything in it anymore, it's because you've outrun your soul. When they used to hunt in Africa, that was why they figured that out. These tribesmen would lead these tribe things and lead these hunts for lions and whatever else they were hunting. And they would find out that on the sixth day, every time, they would get up and the hunters are like, okay, we're on the trail. And they'd say, oh, not today. What do you mean not today? We need to go. He said, no, soul has to catch up with body today. And for some of us in this room, we don't realize that maybe our workload, our pushing, has outrun why we even know why we're doing it. We're just doing it because we're supposed to do it. We're expected to do it. And I'm not preaching down to you. I'm telling you, there's many a times that I've looked at my kids and my family and my life and I've thought, Lord of mercy, just a paycheck. I've done outrun why I'm doing what I'm doing. Anybody ever get there? Y'all getting quiet on me. I don't know if you're sleeping. I can't see. I'm blinded by the light. That's a song somewhere. Blinded by. In fact, even the mules in mines in West Virginia and places, they pull them out one day a week. Otherwise, they will go blind. They pull them out so that they can readjust their eyes to what they're doing or why they're doing it and looking at beauty, just walking in the fields before they go back to work. Philosopher Santayan said it this way: a fanatic is one, and I love this because we always talk about fanatics, and he had a phrase for a fanatic. He said a fanatic is one who, having lost sight of his aim, redoubles his effort. I don't know where I'm going, but I'm just going to work harder than I did before. I don't know why I'm doing what I'm doing. I'm just going to work harder. Why are you doing it? Well, I ain't got nothing else to do. I meet people all the time at work. Why do you do this? Got to make a living somehow. Is this the only reason you do this? Many people that live their lives. You have to learn to separate the urgent from the important. And when we take Sabbaths, what we're able to do is the urgent's always pulling on us. Man, I got to get the grass mowed. Man, I got to get the dishes washed. Man, I got to get the kids' clothes. Got to get this, got to get this. And when we take breaks and just drop everything and say, you know what, I'm going to regroup. My soul needs to catch up. What it does, it lets us separate the urgent from the important. And sometimes it'll hurt people's feelings because they say, man, I need you to do this. And you can't do that. Man, you're not going to help me? I'm sorry. I'm loaded. Because I'm not going to drop the important to do something for the urgent. Think of how many things that you miss out on that you really, really, really needed to do because you got caught up in all the stuff that you thought you had to do. Y'all still awake, right? Y'all awful quiet on me. So, go with me to 1 Timothy 6 and 10. This recreating your soul, getting out of materialism and prosperity because it has a fall. Here is what Paul tells Timothy. For the love of money is the root of all kinds of evils, for which some have strayed from the faith in their greediness, and piercing themselves with many, what? I hope that every one of you in this room becomes filthy rich and pay tithes. But I hope that none of you ever love money. Don't do it for money. If it's something you enjoy doing and you become prosperous, that's wonderful. But do not spend your whole life pursuing money, because if you do, you're going to find it's the most evil master you will ever serve. For which some have strayed from the faith. In other words, they've left the important and went after the things, I got to have this, and I got to have this, and I need this and this. And because of greediness, they've pierced themselves through with many sorrows. How many millionaires have lost their children along the way and marriages along the way? How many people ended up getting buried and nobody wanted to show up, but only wanted to show up when they were reading the will and who was going to split up their stuff? We think all the stuff will make us something. And all it does is bind us. Go with me to Luke 12 and 15. And he said to them, take heed and beware of covetousness. For one's life does not consist in the abundance of the things that he possesses. You think, I don't have enough. That's not the question. The question is, am I happy? Am I content? Do I have joy? Do I see what I have as something that brings joy? If you pursue something like that, if you take heed after covetousness, if I just get that, if I just get what so-and-so has, if I could just get me this, man, I would be... I always go back to those TV shows when they were building those houses for people. And how many people that didn't have nothing but a little trailer that they were living in, and oh, it's such a bad living, and man, we're going to help you out, and we're going to do it. And they build these hundreds of thousands of dollars a house, move families in there, and then they check back on them 5 or 10 years later, and they were gone. They had lost them. What they forgot to tell them is that, you know what, there isn't as much taxes on a trailer as it is a 2,000 square foot house. The water bill isn't the same. The electric bill is not the same. Oh, we gave you this big old house, but all we really gave you was a big burden. It exceeded your joy. And it became such a miserable place that you finally just left it. I'd rather go back and live in just a little trailer and be happy, eating popcorn and watching movies with my kids, than I would working 3 jobs to try to pay the light bill for this thing. That's what they found out. The whole thing is to understand what we're working for. Go with me to Psalms 46 and 10. So what are you working for? What are you working for? Be still and know that I am God. I will be exalted among the nations, and I will be exalted in the earth. I'll tell you what I'm working for. I'm working so I can rest. I work very hard so that when I rest, I enjoy it. And I don't feel guilty, and I don't feel like I need to be working more, and and if your life is not balanced that way, then you need to fix what's not balanced. Because God's gift to you is not more work. It's not even money. God's gift to you is rest. Number 4, there's the emotional. We have to also relieve stress in our life through the Sabbath. There's an old saying, man, that really gets my goat. Anybody ever heard that phrase? Ever heard that? Boy, it gets my goat. You know where it comes from? Back years ago, when people would race horses, the night before in the stalls, you'd have these big thoroughbreds sporting at each other, and they'd be looking across the stall at the other thoroughbred, and man, they're all anxious. And what the owner would do is put a goat in the stall with his horse. And if you wanted to sabotage your other competitor, you would sneak in the night and steal the goat. So that the horse, by the next day, had been standing there all day, been anxious, and was all jittery and all. And that's where the phrase comes, that really gets my goat. Or you got my goat. Because what it was is you stole my peace. That's what the phrase means. It really just robs me of my peace. It really robs, you really got my goat. Stress is unrelieved tension. The Greeks describe it this way: it's to draw tight or to constrict. It's basically pulling something and holding it so long in the tension that it just can't take anymore. It's about to explode. When I used to have BB guns, that's what they would tell us. Only pump it to here, but every one of us know. I wonder what happens if I do it 15 times. I tell you what happens, you blow the cylinder. Why? Because it was only designed to regulate under so much tension. And you pass the tension level, and something breaks. And our lives emotionally are the same way. Let me see if I can say it this way. When tension increases, here's what happens. Here's what increases in your body. For some of you, this will sound real familiar. Your metabolism begins to increase. You pump more blood, your blood pressure starts to go up. You get into a fight or flight mode. It's always like, oh, I just feel so anxious today. I just feel your adrenaline rises. Warning signals are going off. I'm sorry, I'm just real edgy today. I'm just real. Do you know what's happening in your life? You're pushing the emotional part of your life beyond its norm. Results of it look like this. You become more worried, more anxious, more uptight, more fatigued. Sleeping problems start to occur. Ulcers start happening. Digestive problems. Eating disorders. I don't know why I just eat. Blood pressure changes. Negative thinking starts to become normal. You become non-creative. I just can't think straight. I don't know what's been wrong with me lately. I just can't I can't find my keys. I can't do anything. You become more uncertain about everything in your life. You think, I need to withdraw. It makes you more angry. You get more frustrated with people. You start to pull away from God. You lose joy. You stop to have no more motivation. And you start to fall away from spiritual disciplines. You're too tired to read your Bible. I don't feel like praying. I don't feel like... Go with me to Matthew 11 and 28. Come to me, all you who labor and are heavy laden, and I will give you rest. Number 5. There also must be a day of worship. To have rest, as we said, spiritually, just like physically, there has to be worship. There has to be connection. A worship day where family, where expectations of God's presence. Go with me to Matthew 18 and 20. Matthew 18 and 20. Let me show you what I'm talking about. For where 2 or 3 are gathered together in my name, I am there in the same one that says, I will give you rest, says, if you can get with 2 or 3, if you can sit down long enough, if you can encourage each other, if you can be with me, talk about me, sing about me, be it, guess what's going to happen? I'm going to be there. And you're going to find rest. It's amazing to me how many people fall asleep in church. And don't get me wrong, it's not a bad thing. It's really a good thing. I really don't care when people come in and they fall asleep. Because here's what's the problem. I know how tired they are. I know how worn out they are. I know how miserable they are. And how embarrassing it is that I can't come into a building and sit for 2 hours or an hour without falling asleep. But here's the problem. You're not getting rest. And when you finally get in a place where nobody is mad at me, and my kids are out there, and everything is good, man, if you just gave me a blanket right now, that's nothing wrong with that. But think how much different that was than our grandparents and our people, and they weren't that tired. And they raised, sometimes my grandmother raised 11. Had to hook a team up of horses to get to church. But yet they still had time to sit on the front porch sometimes and watch the kids play. They had time to rest. We have cell phones, can do anything, can order our food, don't have to cook, we can do everything, but we have more or less rest than anybody that's ever lived. Church equals a public assembly. Let me give you some statistics about church. Just to help you out, make you want to come Sunday. If you go to church, if you're an active church member, and I ain't saying just show up, but if you're an active church member, you have a 60% less chance to have a heart attack. You will live 5.7 years longer. You have fewer health issues. The Institute of Health once said church attendance, in fact, before the government and everybody got all into that and took all the church stuff out, when they were actually doing research and saying what actually works, the Institute of Health once put church attendance as the leader in fighting heart disease. Ain't that crazy? If you just found some good friends and found some people to be active with, and you loved on some kids in kids' church, or you did some stuff, or you laughed in the foyer, or you just sat around talking, or your life was better. It's not hard to sell church to people. People ask, well, what are you doing to grow? Well, statistics say I'm saving people's lives. Because if I can create a place where people can feel comfortable to come, where they enjoy hanging out together on Wednesday night, and they enjoy eating, and they enjoy coming here sitting, and we learn some things about God, and we just get to rest. Nobody's trying to judge me, fix me. We're just here to rest in the presence of the Lord. And God shows up. And when God shows up, miracles happen. And when God shows up, deliverances happen. And when God shows up, but we're not trying to manipulate something or make something. We're just 2 or 3 are gathered in my name. I'm in the midst. And I bring rest. It's not a religious exercise. Sunday is our celebration of new life. Let me show you what I'm talking about. Go with me to Mark 2 and 27. It's not just something religiously we do, but many times we have to be very careful. Mark 2 and 27. And he said to them, the Sabbath was made for, and not man for the. Let me tell you something. You may not have never known this. God created this day for you. God made this day for you. You're the one that needs it. Oh, just come lift God up. That's great. And this is what we're supposed to do, to worship, to lift Him. But understand, when God made the Sabbath was not made for God. God didn't need some holy day to make Himself feel good about Himself. God made the Sabbath because you need it. You need to be in the company of other people. You need to hear God's Word. You need to worship and praise and be in His presence. Listen to what Colossians 2:16 and 17 says. So let no one judge you in food or in drink, or regarding a festival, or a new moon, or what? Sabbaths, which are a shadow of things to come. But the substance is of. Guess what we're going to have one day when we get to heaven? A big Sabbath. Is there going to be things to do? And yes, because we're built to do and built to. But it will all be built around rest. And he says, listen to me. Don't let anyone judge you that, we do it on Saturday, or we do it on Sunday, or we do it here. Don't let anybody become religious in your Sabbath. Your Sabbath for me is Monday. Do you have a Sabbath day? Hopefully it's Sunday for most of us. It's Sunday. Well, don't turn Sunday into, I went to church, got that 2 hours over, now let's get back and get the yard mowed. Don't let the world take away your Sabbath. Bro, I'll fall behind. No, you won't. You'll find out that if you're working those 6 days, you'll enjoy that seventh and you'll get more energy than you ever thought possible when you start back. That's the way God built you. Go with me to Romans 14 and 5. One person esteems one day above another. Another esteems every day alike. Let each be fully convinced of his own. For me, the Sabbath is Monday. I take Monday very serious. Well, that's your day off, ain't it, bro? No, it's my Sabbath. It's my day I spend with God. I piddle. I may go fishing, may not. I do pretty much what I want to do that day. Lisa may look at me and say, hey, let's go ride bikes. Oh, I don't want to ride no bikes. But then my mind's like, well, you need to do something. All right, let's go ride bikes for a while. But I do what I want to do. That's what makes it a Sabbath. It's my time with God. Believe me, I do enough Bible reading. I do enough praying. And God's good with it. He's like, Tim, I'll talk to you Tuesday. Just chill. Go walk around for a while. Why does he do that? Because he realizes that's the way he built me. Does this make sense? And I hope so. I hope this is making sense. Hebrews 10 and 25 says this. Not forsaking the assembling of yourselves together as is the manner of some, but exhorting one another so much more as you see the day approaching. What day? The day when the Lord comes and brings rest. Jesus, of all the things Jesus did, and I've got to close this thing. Of all the things Jesus did, breaking the Sabbath was what they hated him the most for. He would heal somebody on the Sabbath. Disciples would pull grain off the thing. Oh, your disciples are eating. And he said, listen, you got it all. You're adding tradition and trying to turn the Sabbath into something that's... Let me tell you something. If you get up on Sunday and you're going to worry more about what you're wearing and what you don't have to wear and whether your car's washed or whether, if that's your biggest worry on that, then you didn't have a day off. If it worries you so much, then Saturday night, go ahead and lay your clothes out. Go ahead and get everything ironed so you don't have to worry. So when you get up, go ahead and cook your food. I know that's what we used to do years ago. Because my mom is like, it's Sunday. Whatever was in the crock pot or in the stove or whatever it was, and we ate on that all day to that night. It wasn't going to be no supper cooked. It was like, that's dinner and that's it. Spaghetti all day. That's the reason I ate spaghetti sandwiches. Number 6. Then ultimately, Jesus is our rest. Hebrews 4 and 3, and I've got to close. Listen to what this says. If Jesus is our real rest, then listen to what it says. For we who have believed do enter that rest, as he has said, so I swore in my wrath, they shall not enter rest. Although the works were finished from the foundation of the world. He's talking about Israel. I don't have time to go back. But he created Canaan, had the land, had everything for them, had the vines, had the houses, and all they had to do was trust him and enter rest. And he said they wouldn't do it. He said, even though what I did was I made them a place of rest. Go with Matthew 11, 28 and 29. Here's what it says. Come to me, all you who labor and are heavy laden, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you and learn from me. Did Jesus take breaks? For I am gentle and lowly in heart, and you will find rest for your souls. Hebrews 4, 9 and 10. There remains therefore a rest for the people of God. For he who has entered his rest has himself also ceased from his works as God did from. For every one of us in this room, there is a rest that's been given. That's why God spent so much time on the 4th commandment. Because you can love God, not bake idols, do all this, but if you don't rest in God, if you don't learn to just rest in God and believe God's got it, that 6 days is enough. I can take one day and just exhale. Then it doesn't matter how much you go to church. It doesn't matter how much Bible reading you do. You'll be too tired to live it out. If the enemy can't keep you from church, He'll keep you so wore out you can't enjoy church. You'll walk in with stuff on your mind, you can't hardly get it off. You'll walk out with stuff on your mind. You'll get 3 texts during church to keep stuff going in your mind, and before you know it, you look over and you say, why did we even come? Well, you were supposed to find rest. The 4th commandment is, remember the Sabbath. Remember it. And to keep it holy. Fight for it. Don't let it go. Because your life depends on how you hold on to your Sabbaths. Find something you enjoy. Spend time with your family. Play games with your kid. Whatever it is. Whatever's rest. Whatever makes you feel new the next day, you do it. And don't you let anybody criticize you because, oh, well, I guess you're just sitting around all day. Believe me, preachers, we catch it more than anybody. We only work a day and a half a week. Love chicken. Always at a restaurant. And ice cream. Chocolate. At least somebody was listening tonight. Praise the Lord. But don't let anybody rob you of your rest. You deserve it. God paid a high price so that you could rest in Him and not be fretful. Will you bow your heads? Father, thank you tonight so much for this teaching. Thank you for incredible people who work hard. But God, they are not animals. They are not work mules. They are humans. They are part of mankind, what you created. And even though this old world just says, go, 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 push, push, do more, buy something else, God, please, do not let us trade rest for a faulty promise of this world. I'd rather have half of what I have and be happy than to have a whole bunch of stuff that I think I got to take care of, wash, clean, fix, and live my life miserable. God, let every person in this room fight for that rest. Step into it and enjoy it. Thank you for teaching that to me. I've been a bad student, but I'm learning that I'm only as good as my rest. To be my best, I have to rest. I'm too busy not to rest, not to spend time with you, not to just slow down and realize all the good you've done. Father, let us do it, and let us bring a blessing into our life. In Jesus' name, amen and amen. God bless you. Go give that old devil fits.